Hello, my name is Mary Loto, and I was here last month. I was here because I have a water containment ditch behind my house. But because of the lack of mowing, it has really gone into disrepair, and I have this very big, huge pond. That permanent pond is about 4 feet deep. And I just have good news to share with you because the Monday after I was here, everyone came and mowed. The celebrations were on that Friday, August 30th. Two tractors showed up with that big arm that goes down, and they actually made in the middle of the ditch. So I went out there being joyous and saying, "Oh, thank you very much." And one of the operators got off and he came over and talked to me and said, "We did a really good job mowing around your pond." I said, "Well, you know, the pond's not supposed to be there, guys. The weeds you mowed down caused that dirt to collect there." And he said, "Oh, I didn't know that because I'm gonna see if I can get rid of that dam." And he went down there, bless his heart, he hit that several times and it broke off a piece and about 2 feet of that pond did drain. But I said, "So why are you just coming out?" Thinking that perhaps it came because I had contact, but that is not true. He said that equipment has been broken the entire season and has not been used. And I said, "Oh, well, I'm so glad it's fixed now." But then I started thinking about it, and that's why I'm here today. Why does the contract say with this company? Does it say that if you have broken equipment, oh, well? I mean, I was going to get my house painted, and I signed a contract. They wanted to paint the shed with the trims and doors. And they got done with the job, and I went out to look at it, and 2 feet all the way around the house was not painted. And I said to the guy, "Oh my God, you did not." Well, the ladders didn't reach. That's not my problem. I signed the contract, paint the whole house, go buy new ladders, go rent some. And I'm asking today to have a copy of the contract, everything is in the wrong with my contact information, with Hydro. And just to see exactly what that said, because as a taxpayer, we ought to be if they're doing something, their job, and you're saying they're doing it, they ought to do the whole thing. Okay, well, I was a teacher and a school counselor forever, and I didn't take anything halfway. Okay, and I'm sure you have the same standard. And again, we still have a pond, it's only about 2.5 inches deep, but this thing still concerns me. And so anything you can do to help us. And I do have a picture on my phone of that ditch, May 1st, in that year. You know, the first time they ever mowed it, and it's completely flat, completely open. And you see today, you would think that that had been 2 years ago. It's just completely changed the nature of that podcast. Your help in maintaining that and getting it back to what it was. Speak to that.
Thank you. Thank you. Item 3, consider an act on request for adjustments to the leave.
I don't have any.
Consent agenda. Anybody know? Got any out in the move?
Some amendments to the minutes, if I may.
What, okay.
Isn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Consent agenda.
Oh, anything else for public? Aside from. Consider a motion.
Motion to approve items 1 or the other items.
4, 5, 6.
Yes.
5, 6.
5, 6. Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
So item 4.
Problem, just an addition, I believe, to page 4, item 11. Mr. Taylor did ask to spearhead a technical committee, and you guys agreed to it. I think the only other comment I'd like to add is that Mr. Peterson agreed to deliver that message and invite other participating MUDs to join a working committee. That's all. Just note that you were asked. I know you've been doing this. It's part of the record keeping.
However, it's not necessary, but we can.
You want to add it?
We can add it.
Show you if you want to add it.
I mean, the motion to do that, so that's what we can.
Okay.
Leave it up. Either way.
You know, what I can tell you is I tried to learn about this MUD's business. I've gone through years of agenda packets, agendas and minutes, and it helps me get up to speed as to what actually happens. Sometimes it's a lot easier than watching the video.
Okay.
Change slightly forward. We have a motion to approve item 4.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Item 8, review and act on district draft fiscal year 24-25 operating budget, recommended water rate structure.
All right, we presented the budget to you last month. Since last month, there is some changes that we included this month in the budget, particularly on the orange side. There's been a number of additions from requests from board members. Couple of things to note. There was a request to look at what the budget would look like if we added in the remainder of those commercial meters. So the resultant of that adjusted the expense on the water service maintenance 5,306 from about 78,000 to 226,000, and that would get you all the meters, all of the commercial meters purchased, in addition to the 3 and 4 inches that we talked about last month. So in the budget, you would have monies to purchase the 3s and 4s and install them, and then monies to purchase the larger meters, 6 and up. So that's what that line up.
Well, the rationale behind that, of course, would be they're not gonna get any cheaper. And this will be the time that we get the material in, whatever, because it's a long lead time.
Correct.
But what is,
About 6 months.
so it's possible that we could get those large meters in before the next fiscal year is completed, and actually be able to do the labor to install them.
That's another question, just because we have so many throughout all of the MUDs. That would be we would try to do that.
So again, I think that's an efficient issue. Once we get the team
Sure,
established to install, some people.
sure. Oh, of course, we're not going to stop. Absolutely. Agreed.
It's one of the things we talked about last week on that same subject was possibly calculating the return on investment, payout period, installation of those meters. Do you have a chance to look at that?
No.
If we just do it out of curiosity.
Um,
Capital, there's a certain amount of capital expense going into installing. You're going to get a better reading on the water usage. Hopefully there's less water loss. If it be a calculatable life, I'm just curious.
yeah, we could look at that.
The back.
Yeah, they're becoming obsolete, so they're.
Oh, I'm in favor of what you're doing. I'm just curious.
I'll have to look. And then another item that has changed is on 5,312. So that's large ditch repair. So I'll give kudos and credit to Director Stinson. He actually, I believe, did meet resident.
Didn't go to the site, yes.
Yeah.
Gary wasn't there, but I did visit
Oh,
with
okay.
her husband.
Oh, okay. And so,
Looked it over and then did some further reconnaissance. He reported back that,
yes.
you know,
So in response to that, what they found was, and confirmed, which was that there is some silt that is silting in that area. So the portion of the ditch that is north of Research Forest is about 400 feet, just under 400 feet long. And then we went and looked at an area south of the Research Forest as well, and identified another 300 feet that we believe could benefit from some desiltation. So we made an estimate in that, and then added about $75,000 to this budget under that line item to address that siltation that you're speaking.
Is that the siltation just at this one spot or some other ones, other possibilities as well?
There's definitely going to be other possibilities as well. There's no doubt, and it's one of the things that we'll talk about in my report later on. But we're going to be developing a ditch condition assessment protocol going forward. And in that, we're going to be running the ditches probably at least every quarter, and then post-storm, we'll have a separate protocol for that, just to identify if there's, from an ongoing maintenance standpoint, is the ditch still operating the way it was intended? From a storm standpoint, did the storm cause something, whether it's a tree down or siltation or whatever the case may be? We'll be able to look at that. Last week, the trustees approved the budget, which included some additional equipment to be able to allow us to do that a little bit more on freedom. So we're gonna develop that, ditch maintenance.
What a great, brilliant idea.
We're listening, we're listening.
I'm listening.
So the resultant of, the reason I bring that up to your point in your question is, yes, there is a lot. This isn't gonna cover what we need to do, but we don't know the extent of the rest. This is kind of what we do.
Good start. I like it.
So with, the resultant of that drops your budget, reserve down a little bit, but, I've mentioned before that, we'd like to get, at 12 months or so, a little above. The draft that you saw last month would have gotten us to about 11.7. This is 11.2, drops a little bit. I still think you're in reasonable shape. You're getting a lot done on the, infrastructure side. And you're not taking too big of a hit on it, but we still want to be cognizant of that reserve and make sure that we're in a healthy position, moving forward. So,
Those ratios are subject to the tax rate that we have approved, correct?
that it has an effect on this as well. That is correct. That is correct. Particularly on the, maintenance side, side.
And I would have, in my reconnaissance, after I left Mary's house, I looked at some others and I think I shared with you. It's important, in my opinion, that the Capstone neighborhood in this area where drainage, we have the ponding that's a little bit more excessive than it is in other areas. We have numerous homes that have gotten 1 inch, 2 inches of water in the garage or in the house. That we do our part to make sure the drainage ditches are functioning as designed. So if and when we have that storm again, there's no finger pointing, well, the drainage ditches weren't functioning correctly, therefore we got the water in the garage.
And I will also suggest too that, that what comes out of this bigger evaluation is probably a little bit more robust, regular maintenance program, like we go in. I mean, the condition assessment that we do every so often each year is one thing, but I think we budget going forward to, and this is what we'll have to figure out, is on what frequency, but budget a clean out of the ditches on some regularity, whether it's, I don't know that annual is necessary, but certainly if we see that it's building up every couple of years, we probably ought to think forward for that. Nothing for today, but just put that in your radar as well.
Well, certainly in some of these hotspot areas where there is drainage issues, where the grass is cut, and particularly where it's high, some consideration needs to be given to clearing that cut grass out, which, just as bad, that builds up over time. That's part of that protocol that you're developing.
Well, something,
Maybe not in every ditch and then throughout the village, but in certain areas where there's certain problems, that might be a consideration.
and something else that is kind of a different phenomenon this year in terms of the center of the ditches. Oftentimes in this time of year, it hasn't rained much and the ditch and center is dried out and dead. But this year, with all the rain through the whole summer up until, early August, it was still growing. And so what we saw across all the ditches in the woodlands is that center strip was vegetated a lot more this year than it usually is. So usually we wouldn't do the center in the summer because we don't need to. Yeah, very high this summer because of all the rain all summer long. Last year it didn't rain from June to mid-September. And this year it rained all summer until August. So it just warm weather and water is what the grass likes.
Siltation likes the rain too, that's what's.
Sure.
I'm sure that'd be a function of the analysis.
Is there a motion to approve the budget? Second.
Okay.
I'll second. Hey,
All those in
Three of
favor?
us seconded.
Aye. Item 9, consider an act on policy RS-12, rates and water service.
Yes, so RNS 12 is the policy document that that memorializes, I guess, the water and sewer rates. And so as I mentioned last month, the retail water and sewer rates are not changing, but the GRP rate did reduce and go down as it was reported the last few months from SDRA. And so we need to document that rate has gone down. And the blended rate went from 320 to 297. So we need a motion for that.
Okay, we have a motion. Okay. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Consent, conduct a public hearing regarding district's intent to levy.
All right, so this is the second step of the two-step process to adopt your 24 tax rate. Last month, the first step, which was to authorize the publication of notice in the Chronicle of the districts, I'm sorry, in the Courier of the district's intent to levy a tax not to exceed 0.1425, so 14.25 cents, and that was published in the Courier, right?
That's correct.
All right, with that, then we can go ahead and adjourn the regular meeting and open the public hearing to any comments regarding the published tax rate.
Attorney. Comments from the public? Hearing none?
Close the public hearing. All right, so.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Close the public.
The public part, but we still can comment internally,
Yeah,
right?
correct. All right, so
Thank you.
first, we need to go ahead and close the public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the public hearing is closed. That will take us to item number 11, which is to consider enacting the levy of the district's 24 tax rate. So as I mentioned, what was published was 14.25 cents, comprised of 5 3/4 cents debt service and 8.5 cents for maintenance and operation. So this is where you have discussion on the proposed debt service and maintenance tax rates. And then ultimately, we need a motion to adopt the order levying the two tax rates.
I will just start the discussion. I did, do some, back of the napkin calculations, and I thought that there might be an opportunity to lower the debt service rate, and I had Jeannie contact Adam, and I think I got some positive feedback that we could probably go down 1/4 penny and still be okay. We may get below the required reserves after a few years, but that's assuming no growth and no appreciation.
Right.
So I'd like for us to consider dropping the debt service down 1/4 penny.
So, question for council, did we get the letter, saying we're in an 8% developing district still? Or developing district?
Yes, they're right.
Developing at
They're-
8%.
Yes. You're developing. Mhm.
Do we know when that status may change?
When you get
Determined
95%,
every year, so
yeah.
it changes, it can change from year to year, whether or not we have the infrastructure in place, the water sewer infrastructure in place to serve 95%. That's certified to by the end of the year.
But if we don't acquire any additional properties into the district, it's just a matter of holding out what's left until we get to 95. I would estimate that's probably not too far in the future.
Yeah, I couldn't say, I mean, part of it's gonna depend on density. You know, how dense the undeveloped property gets developed in terms of.
That's a good question, and we probably need to get a better answer. I like your thinking on it. I don't have the answer. I haven't had time to do input, but I'd like to.
And I think it's hard to predict. It's based on development. I mean, you can make some projections.
Right.
It's the projection.
I'd like to know what the engineer that's projecting is projecting.
And he would say it's developer driven.
So does he arrive at it, or has he arrived at a percentage for the next year?
I don't know. We just have them certified when we make the designation as to whether or not they're developing or developing. That's in February, March or so.
I think Eric showed, we showed me a spreadsheet, I believe, summarized each of the months. Developed, undeveloped status, or what you call it. I thought we got some, I know.
Yeah, LJ provides that
LJ.
each year.
But yeah,
They presented that to you in June or July of this year, a couple months
Sounds
ago.
like he's got to come to a finite number in order to say he doesn't know the 95%.
correct.
Yeah, but Jim's saying that is land plan. But you have a parcel that's estimated to be, taking that number, it's 15 single family. And then we have a, what's talking going that is way more numbers. A new project, it's way more, it's way more capacity than, you know, the way the district finance. And that can change the calculation, even though those acreage of undeveloped property, you know, it needs to change.
It sounds like an art now.
We're the only district developing.
Metro and 39 is, Metro and 39 are developing,
Rest of the districts are capped at 3.5%.
3.5.
How does our 11.2 compared to other modes, you know, in terms of big coverage?
No, I'd say the average is about 8 or 9. And then there's probably 2 districts that are a little higher, and then the rest are maybe 3 districts that are higher and the rest are at or below. There's a couple that are really low and some are at 6, 7.
I mean, I like the idea of dropping the rate of proposed, you know, the debt service, but to me, in my mind, a little bit, perhaps we should have some discussion about, you know, in this current economic environment that everybody is in, and people struggling with inflation, et cetera. You know, at the end of the day, you know, would it be more benefit to people not to have a lower tax rate, but really to have a no revenue increase tax rate? So that they're paying the same bill as they did last year. So, you know, I just kind of opened that up, I mean, whether or not we should have some discussion about that.
Okay, kind of following up on what Jim did, I heard. Because we had a conversation last meeting about maybe some sensitivities. And I kind of, thinking the same way after what I heard the Woodlands Township did, but did y'all get a copy of these spreadsheets?
Yeah.
Did you get them? And
Yeah.
well, you'd like to look at them, I'd like to introduce them for a couple minutes. What I did with the help of some members from Maureen and Jeannie, and looking at some of the work that Bear did, is I wanted to, being a new guy and not understanding this as well as you guys do, I wanted to do a couple of things. First spreadsheet that's at the top, it says MUD 67 historical. I wanted to take a look at what we've done historically as a MUD. I had no idea. And I tracked the appraised values, looked at some of the coverages, and I broke the debt and the cash. So I set a stage for now. So the biggest thing here, I was surprised to see that in 5 years, our appraised value for property's gone up almost over 40%. I think that was a finding. So the question I had is the same as Jim and same as Steve as well. We have a proposed combined rate of 14.25 cents. How will changing that affect us? And the bottom of the sheet has the results, which just for your confidence, I created 2 other sheets. Sheet number 2 is called maintenance and operations history and scenario. And what I did there was look at the last 5 years of how maintenance and operation budget is run. What the annual income was, what the revenues were, et cetera, and what our cash coverage ratios were, because that seems to be very important. And I wanted to see what would happen. And below that, I ran a couple of variable cases for them with different rates there, tax rates in green, to see what the result was in terms of revenues and how it tied up to our expenses, what kind of cash we had at the end, and also what our coverage ratios were. So if you look at the oranges up by the top part there, as proposed, the coverage is 11.2. Some of the samples I did range from 10 to 11. And I did the same thing on the debt service analysis. I put the Baird numbers in yellow. And there's a typo there. It's a 2031, not 3031.
On the
Page 3, the debt analysis. The reason that's cut off, I stopped there because our debt drops off significantly there. And so if we had coverage, debt service coverage through then, I was comfortable doing. So what I did there is I took the Baird numbers, but I held the tax rate constant. I also held the appraised value constant, and I ran 3 cases down there. And I give you the results of those 3 cases. One is what happens in 25, what happens in 26, and then what happens at the end of 31. And I was surprised to see how sensitive the debt service stuff is. I thought I'd be cutting it a bit. I'd be okay, but you could see by 2031, the 2 cases I ran, you're in big trouble, really. But at 550, which is one of the rates you suggested, Jim, it looks like we have pretty good coverage all the way through. So if you go back to page 1, MUD 67 sensitivity cases, I have 5 scenarios. 2 of them have a debt of 5 3/4 cents, and 3 of them have a 5.50. And I changed the M&O rates as well, from 0.75 through 0.8, It's from 7.5 cents to 8.5 cents. And the results are here. As best as I can tell, you can see your debt coverage in green in that column. You can see your operations coverage in green. And then at the very end, the part I was most interested in was what does it mean to our taxpayers? Our taxpayers last year paid an average of 638. The budget had it 670. And based on what Steve was suggesting, you can look down at the different scenarios I ran and see what numbers you're comfortable with. You can look at what coverages your rate, what coverage ratios work for you, and what do you think, what numbers would result in paying our annual payments from our taxpayers? So, any comments? And Steve, you had a comment on where you thought we should be with, I don't know what that means, but please
Well,
help us today.
I think from the analysis from Beard last month, I think they call it the parity tax rate, I believe, the one which would be 1.1358, I think would give you same, annual, tax bill for residents as the prior year, which is a little bit different than your scenario D, which is, 0.1350. Right, so it's,
Yeah, we're at 638 and that'd be 634, so pretty much a fell to bonus thing.
yeah, approximately the same. So your analysis is,
Right, so that would go along with what Jared was saying, and Jim Stinson was pointing out that the 5.5 cents would work pretty well for the debt. And then we have, I guess we need to hear from Eric, how does 8 cents instead of 8.5 cents feel to you in terms of the coverage ratios and cash flow, et cetera?
It'd be about 115,000 off of the surplus, the proposed surplus of 600.
4.8, yeah, it goes to about 4.7 and change. It's about $115,000 reduction in your M and O.
The value of a penny is 233,000. So,
Yep.
On the debt coverage, I don't know. For the debt service, I don't know.
yeah, I mean,
It's on
we're,
sheet.
we're positive, we're under the 25%, but you're not submitting an application that's.
You're under 25% where?
You're 134.
I mean, that's not right. I'm not at it. How you doing? 5.5.
Jenny, what is the tax bill, the difference in from last year to this year, is it at 14 cents?
At 14 cents? $19.66 increase, 3%, a little over 3%. If you go to 14.
That was a 40% or, yeah, 40 penny reduction.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any motion? I'd like some further discussion. I think as somebody's already pointed out, between the first draft and the second draft, we went from 11.7 months of cash coverage to 11.2. And I did go out and take a look at what the average was. Or I should say the range, first of all, I did was from 4.5, which is obviously very low, to 17.9, and we're about well near the middle, or the fourth from the top. Average being about 9.5 months. Actually 9.8. Let's see. That's point number one. Second point is we do not, 167 has no bond for beyond what we've already sold.
Right.
So any additional money we need for any other project, we have to go to the lawyers for a vote. And another one that is of concern to me is the Bear Branch Dam repairs. I don't know where we are in the engineering phase and the construction phase. But my understanding is that we don't have the final report yet, therefore we don't know if the 5 muds might have to pay more money. That's essentially correct.
The you said Bear Branch Dam. You mean Bear Panther? Yeah, that's moving, but that's in design.
It is in design, but are we far enough in design to know what the engineer's estimate charge
It's higher than what we originally estimated. Last number I heard was about $1.5 million higher. Now, that said, we've been advised by the Corps that we could apply for additional funding, it would lower the amount of your all contribution. It would be the whole million and a half, is what I'm saying. So we were anticipating doing that as far as we could until we were told no.
But so my point is, that's another question mark that's out there. I don't know how much will be our share of that would be. Couple of other items that are concerning me are the AC water line condition assessments. That testing and that study is not complete, so we don't know what effect that's going to have or additional costs there. And then we just discussed today of an additional work on drainage ditches, which I didn't have on my list. And that's another additional cost that sounds like it's fairly real.
Real. And there will be, so what I've been telling the districts also is that we're gonna be, as part of that ditch condition assessment, as we start doing this regularly, we're gonna, I think I expressed to y'all last month that I'm having a little concern about the backslip interceptor piping and the wall piping that are coming into all these ditches. We've had a lot of failures, and so as part of that about condition assessment, not just to look at siltation, but also to look at the pipes that are coming in it. I want to assess all of those and put those into a capital improvement plan for all the districts. And I'm hoping to have that done by the end of the year. So it won't be in this budget, but it's coming. It's something that is coming at some point. And I don't know what that number would be. Thank you.
And last item that I have here is the Spring Branch, Bear Branch flood control project. In the event that we cannot arrive at a solution that is satisfactory to all the MUDs and the state and for all parties involved, I guess that we have to consider unwinding that. And unwinding, as far as MUD 67 is concerned, I assume we don't have to pay back the entire $6,550,000 plus the first payment of $235,000 we just paid last month or this month. So that's correct. So that's another area of my concern that, you know, if we can get with a big refund issue,
Is that in a separate bond fund?
you leave it, you don't have to put it in the bond fund today, you can leave it in M&O and then move it to the bond fund when it's needed.
No. Misunderstanding. My apology. I must be misunderstanding. The money that we borrowed, the bond for the drainage repair is in a separate account, is it not? Okay. So it's money, their money's there to do that. So I'm not understanding the rest.
Okay, so it's at the Bank of New York, and that's the first, all the expenses come out of that bond fund, our bond fund. Okay, so obviously, and we're currently at a balance due of $5,880,000 or something like that. So if we're required to pay back $6.3 million, and we're only going to get $5,880,000, we're going to be short $400,000 to $500,000.
Is that right?
So, well, we have to dig into what the ultimate number is. There will be some level of adjustment.
Yeah.
Because, what it costs to issue bond, you don't get the exact amount of principal that is there, so sure. Now, you will pick up, maybe you'll pick up some sort of interest on that hasn't been accrued. And that's gonna be ultimately over the hour, that's gonna be 0% interest in that, it's arbitrage. So we're not gonna get a rely on the interest. The costs that have been incurred to the extent they've been paid out of the bond proceeds, which is, I think, the reason. And the reason we went that route was because we had to spend down bond proceeds to ultimately be eligible to have the grant funds. Right. Correct. But if this played out, worst case scenario, can't find additional funds, can't find a revised scope of work to be able to still do a variation of the project, if all that stuff, we could do that in, and you have to say, all right, we just have to terminate the project and pay the bond, we would have to do a true up with the other participants, so, because we have funds from them escrow as well, so we would have to do a true up with their pro rata share of the incurred costs. Those funds are going to pay back at 67 for their pro rata share. that would go toward paying off the principal, along with what we had the remaining bond proceeds, but there's still, to Paul's point, there would still be some level of delta. I just don't know what that number would be. So I think the point you're trying to make is there's an additional expense hanging out there that may have to draw on operating funds. You just don't know.
There's additional risk, that's.
Right.
I think it was, as I recall, $700 or so thousand right now, minus the interest and then minus the proceeds from the other participants if we had to buy that back.
Yeah.
So, but you're the biggest player, so of the 7 and change, you'd still be about half.
Now, is there a chance that the money that was spent to prepare and develop the model would not have to be, could stay and be paid over time, rather than refunding that?
In other words, it was a recognized part of the project in the application. And we applied those funds appropriately. I mean, it seems weird we didn't have to apply the rest of the funds yet in the state.
I would at least.
I would too.
That's integral to get to where.
And it's a good conversation. There's lots of uncertainty in budgeting, right? We all agree to that. However, we have a budget performed in an adequate fashion that says, this is probably my expectation for the next fiscal year. We have a bond estimate of what we can do in the next fiscal year. Trying to accommodate all uncertainties when we have, in essence, we're undeveloped, as it's pointed out by conversation earlier, so we have the ability to do different things. And we have significant cash in both accounts. Our income next year based on the M&O budget is $600,000. Doesn't need to be that big when we have a cash, we have cash in there of 400 million or 4 million, 5 million. I appreciate it would have to be cautious. I think you guys have done it. The previous administration group has done a really good job of building a strong financial backing. But at the same time, I think we'd be remiss in not having an honest conversation. And just because appraised values are going through the roof, and we've all felt that we can't accommodate thinking about lowering our rates to keep the taxpayers relatively whole while maintaining sufficient reserves to operate Mud 67. So in that case, you asked for some recommendations. I think I hear a fair agreement for the 5.5 cents for the bond. I think everybody was pretty comfortable with that.
And John, my only discrepancy with your numbers.
And I could have, believe me, I could have.
No, you don't. You have a more supplemented number, so the appraisal district is very supplemented, an additional 4.5 million, so
Okay.
yours accounts for that. When I ran last month, we didn't have that supplement.
Let me be clear that any mistake in here is mine. There's a lot of numbers out there and I had to try to do the best I can. The ladies helped me, but I could mess up too. So what I'd like to do going next year is make sure we all have the same numbers. We'll do that next year. Anyhow, I'd like to make a recommendation that we do the debt at 5.5 and we do the M&O at 8 cents. A combined rate of 13.5 cents, which should result in $634 monthly payment to our taxpayers.
Yearly.
Pretty much flat with what it was. Sorry?
Yearly payment.
Oh, yeah, what I say monthly? Oh, yeah, no, thank God it's not monthly. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's what I meant.
And so to expand on Adam's point earlier, a penny is 233,000. So that would be a half penny reduction from what was included in the budget. So that would be around $117,000 less in your operating fund. And that looks like it would come in a little bit below parity according to John's analysis here. But we did a quarter parity, which is the noting revenue.
Oh, okay, yes, you are correct, yeah. Okay.
So if that's 117, in between the two, if you did an 8 1/4, in between what the budget proposal was and what John has proposed, in between those two would be a quarter penny reduction, which would be 58,000 less in revenue, and that 13.75 would be a hair over your parity rate.
$8 increase.
Yeah.
Tax bill.
So that seems like those are your three options. What was proposed, what John's proposed, and kind of in between the two, that's 58,000 for each revenue.
One other, number that hasn't been discussed and was not included. It's not included in your calculations for the bond portion of it. Is the tax administration fee. In our case, it's 28,000 a year. But while the other numbers are conservative in your projections, that number has been omitted. Right. So I view that as an offset.
And I'll give you, my position is if we were at 12 months or greater, when we get to that point, I'm willing to look at a reduction in the O and M tax rate, but in my experience tells me that's where we need to be, in reserves in this district. After seeing the ditches, knowing my prediction is there's at least 100, if not 200,000 more that needs to be done in ditch, silt removal. And I'm not in favor at this point of lowering the O and M. Plus, there's the benchmark, keep it there. The unintended consequences of the legislation that sets that benchmark, I think is reasonable.
Which benchmark is this?
Brian?
We're talking about the difference in the eight.
Yeah. It's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, districts that were more aggressive in the past and lowered that rate, because they could not anticipate the legislation and stuff.
Right.
So I think your point is you don't know what the future legislation could be if it would be modified.
Let's be clear, we're only setting a rate for 1 year. We're not setting it for 5 years
That
down
has
the road.
effects on the future.
Well,
Right.
minor. You can't, you're talking about we're reducing your income from 600 to 400. So 603 to 408, $120,000 income for 1 year. I mean, I understand you love the ratios. I understand that this is a pretty big mud, but because it's big, it can absorb a couple $100,000. We just did that from 1 month to the next by adding all those meters. That was almost a $300,000 add to our budget.
Right.
And it influenced it, 0.4, 0.3 coverage ratio, right? So there's a lot of room in there. But I just, we are here representing the constituents in two fashions. You're right. Financial responsibility, we have to do that. We have to make sure our operations get done. We also have to understand that they are feeling the pinch of a great deal of inflation and appraisal values that are skyrocketing. I would love to see them come back down. I don't know if they will. And that is another, they could come down. We don't know.
And I think we lowered it, as best we could, in my opinion, the total tax rate. And I'm comfortable with a $19 tax bill. And I think, considering.
So what were the final numbers that you're comfortable with, Jim, just so I know?
A 14 total, 14, 5.5 for debt service, and then the
And
8.5.
8.5 for him and over.
Yeah.
So, $19, $20
Mhm.
increase in the annual bill.
Right.
Right.
Over 50 of them. They'll be offset by the reduction in the
MRP. Water and sewer rates are going down more than that.
About $27. It's true. That's per month.
Right.
That's not per year.
Somebody ready to vote?
Were we voting?
What's voting? Yeah.
We can do the easy one first. You want to do it on the debt service? It seems like we all the directors are in agreement with debt service. So if y'all want to.
Motion for 5.5 on that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do the other one, Jim.
Motion for 8.5 on O and M tax rate.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
3.
3-2, and I'd like it noted in the minutes to roll call, please.
City voted yes. All right, moving on. Approval of execution amendment to the 10th amendment and restated district information.
Okay, this is also related to the adoption tax rate. We have to update that form that's reported in property records to reflect the district's current tax rate.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor say aye. 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 Stephen, regular monthly SJRA would be report, including updates on operating projects and 20.
All right, well, I've got a couple things to highlight, and any questions y'all have. First is, we do have financials for May and June. Those are up here, they can get one, we'll pass it around.
Oh, I can get those.
Pass me one.
Yeah, we're passing, no, I don't get that, sorry.
Those are there. In your packet, beginning on page 20, on 26 are the projects. Those financials have also been updated. When you go through there, you can see on page 27, there is one project that has been finalized, it's in yellow. That's the wastewater treatment plant, number one master plan that ended back in February, but that project is finalized, so it'll be taken off the books. What I want to draw your attention to is the project directly below it, the owner's advisor. This is the contract that we are doing for the cost comparison between, membrane technologies, and then, conventional repair in place and, replace in place, right? The two numbers you see of 550,000 and 559,000 are incorrect. The trustees approved 500,000 for the budget. And so that number is truly 500,000. And the contract amount, which I will update both of these numbers next month, is just under 500,000, 499,000 and change. We did honor what the trustees said, and those numbers are incorrect. That is all I have, unless you have any questions.
Yeah, is it normal just to get 9 months or we're still getting caught up? Is that what's happening with this first thing?
Normally, you'll get 11 months.
Right.
And so July is still owed. We're hoping for next month for July. At this point, we got May and June and July done, but July still had some QA/QC issues that didn't feel comfortable. It's typical not to give out the August financial because that is the end of the year. And so at that same point, we're doing the annual comprehensive financial report. And so by the time you get August, you also spend a month and you get the final audit in.
So we're still running a little behind.
Yep, July is behind. So we go to July and
When you did this, I'm assuming you have a contract for advising doing this.
for the software switchover?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to care to share who it is?
I was not a part of that. Pro is the implementator. CROW.
How far behind budget or plan are you
As far as
getting it done?
getting it done, I do not know the details.
Curious how long and how much over budget?
They're not over budget. We had set aside approximately $3 million to do the switchover, and project came in around 2.2. There's been a couple of change orders, but we're still under the 3.
Give it time a shot, but that's good news.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Contract wise, they've met the majority of their contract obligations. We got into a warranty period. We've gone through that. There is still some things that are not 100% correct, operating correctly. Right. And so they're working through those issues.
It seems you made a lot of progress with last.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thanks. Glad it's not over everybody else. That was my work that's been going on for quite a while.
Yeah.
You guys, well, maybe next month.
Yes, sir.
On page 36, there's the water consumption, service and groundwater. And the top where it says fiscal year, that's 8/31. And is that data accurate?
No. So one thing to keep in mind with GRP is the GRP report that y'all see will always be up. So this is as of July 31st.
Okay.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, just kind of add a little bit to that. The Woodlands Prevention of Forest received 50/50 blend ratio, so right on target. And the only surface water left on the table was about 3% of your annual allocation. So it was, Woodlands fared out very good.
Question on page 27, the last item, on that page. I think that, I was just curious, but that the, over, I mean, compared to the budget items, and the quite a bit different by the contract, we don't invoice to go.
Oh, correct, being over budget,
Yeah,
correct. And so when this was done, there was a lot of, basically there was concrete and it had eroded more than we had figured. And so as we had planned for, and so when we set the budget, we figured like we had to go in and half an inch. Turns out we had to go in a little bit deeper, which then you have more cementitious buildup as well as more footing on the exterior side, more cleanup, and now we're going the bigger reason.
and that'd be a good reason for it.
And there's some well rehabs going at under budget, so some of the funds in our RV might just cover that for the fall and get over. So
Okay, thank you.
You received item 14, update regarding status of Bear Branch, Panther Branch Research Forest Drainage Improvement Project, authorizing the action section.
Okay, to give you an update, after you made the decision to get the committee back together from the early days, as of last month, there was one stakeholder that was after you, so I was able to convey that to them. This month, there's three others that hadn't met, so I've met with all them now. And so they've identified a representative or two to join in on the committee. So next step at this point would be to get a meeting scheduled with those participants of the stakeholder committee. And we get together and figure out where to go. Project. So that's the next steps.
So in addition to the, budget directors like this, who else is included?
Just the stakeholder muds, you mean?
Oh, yeah. But I think.
LJA would be.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what we.
Of course, yeah, the consultants would be involved, yeah. I'm just saying in terms of the stakeholder muds, of course. We just needed to identify them to be able to join the committee. Yeah, the engineering firm will be there, Estray, of course, and ourselves.
Are you gonna take it on yourself then to invite everyone to a meeting or how it? Okay, one question is, we're just gonna get together for a meeting to start a meeting, or is it, one of the thoughts that we had early was that there's many new directors that have not been involved in the project whatsoever, and having LGA, at least the first meeting, do a little orientation as to project history and basic modeling and drainage. Do you think you had the
Yeah,
drainage?
I saw your memo, and I think that's a good idea. We have so many new directors that do kind of a recap.
Just do something to start with. Yeah.
Yep, that was the plan
Oh, okay.
in the initial meeting.
Good.
Just get everybody caught up to speed, make sure we know this, that we're all on the same page, have the same information.
Yeah, and again, the goal of this thing is more technical and informative. You can't make decisions there, right? It's to come back to the bodies that can make the decision, or it's a technical understanding.
That is it.
That is it. Thank you for doing that. I think it's going to help the project understand.
All right, item 15, attorney report.
Nothing on the attorney report today.
Pete, the
Yes.
manager report.
Page 44 is report. We've already covered a couple things, ditch conditioning and such. So the only other thing I had was, in addition to what's in the report, was just to point out some obvious building improvements you're seeing. So much brighter. We changed some light bulbs and painted some walls, basically. So we've started with the public areas. There's still a few things to do. And we'll be doing some additional things over this next budget cycle next year that was approved with the trustees. So exciting times. We're going to add some technology in here for board members as well as the public. When this room overflows, we'll have TV outside so they can see and hear what's going on. So in addition to a few other things. And with that, kick it over to John for communications update.
Afternoon, page 51, starts your report.
Oh, before you do, I need an update. You on last month, you heard the information about your insurance coverage. And I've received that information and I'm making a recommendation to the MUDs to increase your unit coverage from 2 million to 5 million. and the premium change is 2,200. So your DNO and GNO coverage, currently is just under 4,000 total for 2 million. And, we're coming to move forward with a change to 5 million. Yeah,
For all of them.
correct. So, sorry, that was the last thing.
Thank you. Thanks for doing that, Tim.
One more thing before I turn it over. The software conversion. That was supposed to have been completed, and I understand this stuff again. That's the first phase.
We are, the rollout date has been moved back to February.
But costing us, and we just money to pick up the so.
I believe there'll be one data transfer, I think that's necessary just to do.
That's in the plan.
It's already,
Yeah, one,
It's already part of the contract.
correct. There will be a little data cleanup. They don't want to not touch the data for 5 months. That's a minor expense, and we're just gonna get less of a credit from Tyler. Yeah, because we're kind of parallel right now, so.
but we want to make sure, I mean, we're trying to run it parallel and do testing. So we ran into some issues during testing, and we want to make sure that it's right before we go live.
And this was their decision to extend the date.
We'll get there.
All right, thank you.
Okay, it is September, so we're now in the fourth quarter of our strategic plan, so we've shifted focus from water conservation to value. Appreciate value that our reliable quality system delivers to our community. It doesn't mean we don't continue to message on conservation and other topics as well, shine a greater light on value. Infrastructure, Connor Stokes here with Holloway Communications is going to give you a presentation here in a minute, so we'll skip over that. Wanted to note that the upcoming water bill, how the lower water bills that are coming to customers, as we pass on the reduction in surface water conversion fee. We are expanding our social media presence, so we have some paid advertisement through Houston Chronicle, Woodlands Online now that are returning some really good engagement stats that have been very effective for us, and we're also going to be adding Instagram here every day to continue to grow our social media presence. Some examples of current marketing materials there in the next couple of pages. Wanted to note that Woodlands Water Summer Kids Art Contest, the theme being Every Drop Counts, was a lot of fun. We had a bunch of great entries from 3rd through 6th graders. We gave out some prizes, and you can see those entries online. We're going to infuse those into some of our outreach components that we have planned for the lobby here. We'll be doing that type of stuff here again in the future. You got your outreach calendar there. Always encourage directors to come out and join us in any of those. We'd love to have you. It's a great opportunity to talk with folks. Directors are always well received out there. People have lots of questions. If you have a minute, come join us. And finally, there is a presentation coming up next Thursday, 7 p.m. on Zoom by Jason Ramage with USGS. And Jason's going to be providing a annual summary of water table data. Look at how our aquifers are forming throughout the region. We're going to send you an email, so you have the link and all that. But again, it is next Thursday, 7 p.m. It's on Zoom. It will be recorded, and we'll make that recording available if you can. Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Regarding the community advisory group appointments, is that?
About to hear about it.
Yeah.
Next up, item on the agenda.
Good thing.
Just so I know, now that we've increased their tax rate, what are we gonna do? Their taxes for next year, did you announce that? I mean, you got the water reduction rates here, so it's each month say, hey, we voted for this tax rate, it's gonna increase your bill.
We did send out notifications last year of the change in the utility rate and the tax rate component to that.
It's still just going to bill, or is it, I don't know how you do that, so I'm asking.
I remember what we did.
They did the annual report there in January.
Oh, yeah.
That was the big notice.
State of the district.
Yeah, we did the annual notice, but we did that as a water bill.
Yeah, you did it.
It was much specific that noted the change in the retail rate and the what the tax rate was. So we could discuss doing that again.
Seventeen, receive an update on the public outreach campaign from Holloway Consulting, select community working group member.
All right. So as you know, the PC's been working hard over the last year, working with a consultant that started about a year ago. That consultant is Holloway, a communications firm that's been helping the PEC start to build develop the campaign around infrastructure renewal. This is an effort to create transparency across the woodlands on the aging infrastructure, different projects that might go on in the future, things like that. So the PEC is going to develop the structure of the campaign, and now we're kind of to the point of implementation. So I thought it'd be important to have Holloway come in, kind of give us an update on what's going on, what's been going on, what's going on now, and what to expect in the future. So Connor Stokes is here tonight to explain a little bit about what's going on with the PEC.
Okay, my name is Connor Stokes. I'm the Communication Services Manager at Holloway Environmental Communications. We'll go over the website here today, but before we do that, like Eric mentioned, I just want to give a little bit of background information about our firm, Holloway, some information about water renewal in the woodlands, how we got to today, and steps.
If your eyes.
Shut your eyes.
Right, so just a little bit about Holloway. We're a Houston-based firm. We were established about 30 years ago. We were originally established as an environmental consulting firm only. And about 20 years ago, we expanded into public involvement and communications. We really saw a gap in the public involvement space, specifically as it related to National Environmental Policy Act public involvement. So that's where we got our start. And then since then, we've really expanded our strategic communications and creative services. Some of our, like I mentioned, we do most of our work in the Houston area. We also work across the state of Texas and do a lot of coastal planning work in both the environmental and communications realms along the Texas Gulf Coast. Here in the Houston area, we do a lot of work with Harris County Flood Control, Harris County Engineering Department, Metro, among many others here locally. We're also working on the state level with General Land Office, Water Development Board, and then at the federal level, it could be U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And just a few examples of current past projects, ideas, things that we've had our hands on. Harris County Map Next project that is looking at remapping the floodplains in Harris County with Harris County Flood Control and FEMA. And then we've been a part of the Coastal Texas project, which you may have seen in the news, referred to as the ICTIC, since it's to get an idea of something. So what is water renewable woodlands? Water renewable woodlands is a collaborative effort by Woodlands Water, the MUDs, and SJRA focused on long-term modernization and rehabilitation of water and wastewater infrastructure. Potential projects are sourced from SJRA's 10-year project plan, as well as additional projects identified. Our objectives here are transparency in our communication, education of the public and Woodlands Water customers, as well as providing public engagement opportunities, and opportunities to provide feedback throughout the process. And then, of course, we want to ensure efficient, reliable water and wastewater services and maintain infrastructure soundness. How did we get to today? So we started back in the fall of last year. We started with a needs assessment. And that needs assessment looked at the ways that Woodlands Water and SJRA communicate externally. And that really served as a foundation for our communication plan for our next step. But in that assessment, we looked at each entity's website, advertisements, all sorts of external communication that both entities sent out, even into media coverage from both organizations, just to get a better idea of public perception in both organizations. From there, as I mentioned, we moved into our communications plan, and that really outlines a clear strategy and a guide for implementation as far as communications goes. I will note that More actionable micro plans would be developed, just like as we're doing, as we get, prepared for implementation as we proceed. But this larger plan, again, serves as a guide for implementation, and that outlines communications methods, tools, tactics, all those things, as well as some internal processes to help make sure that, we as a consultant team, Woodlands Water, SJRA, that we're all working in alignment, working lockstep with each other as we. As far as implementation, I just want to highlight a couple of things. One of those is the website, which we'll jump into here in a moment. But then also that logo there at the bottom, water renewal, the Woodlands. That was our first step, kind of getting back to the needs assessment. And all the materials that we provided, Woodlands Water was very gracious in sharing, a lot of the great feedback they've received from customer surveys in the past. And then going through all of that, we really noticed, that there's some uncertainties and possibly some confusion around roles and responsibilities between Woodlands Water, the MUDs, SJRA. So we really wanted to create a central brand identity for this renewal effort going forward. So in a sense, it's a one-stop shop for the public, for customers to go to be educated, learn about these different organizations in one place, and their roles and responsibilities. So just briefly before we do deep dive into the website, the purpose of this website is really to serve as a central hub for information. All of our external communication, we will link back to this website. We want the public customers to be able to trust this site for updates with project information that's identified going forward, and really serve as the central place to provide feedback. I want to point out that we've been in really close coordination with Woodland Water, the PDC throughout this process. So the website, you'll see everything that we put together have been through multiple rounds of revision. A lot of discussion has been had, and that you'll see. And finally, just regarding future editions, I just want to mention that this website will be expanded as we go forward. We understand that projects have not yet been identified. There's funding mechanisms and sources that are still uncertain at this moment. So as all these things become more clear, the website will be added to and expanded. And then just finally, we're going to have more interactive components on the website for the public to interact with as we proceed. So all these things we have in mind, and we'll be looking to expand upon the site as we move forward. Now we're going to jump into the site itself. So here, this is our landing page. Here, just at the top of the page, the intention here is really just to tell the story, set the stage for what we're talking about. Again, a lot of this information is at a high level at this moment. We don't have all the projects identified, funding sources, funding mechanism sources identified, and clarity around that. So again, we're at a high level here. That graphic on the right-hand side there is an example of the town life cycle. And the critical decision points a community like the Woodlands must navigate at some point in their life cycle. So scrolling down a little bit, why now? It's right there in the title. It's just really explaining, why it's important to start thinking about infrastructure renewal and improvements at this stage. Who's involved? So again, getting back to what I mentioned earlier about some uncertainties out there about roles and responsibilities. We want to make it very clear and provide that transparency around who's involved, provide clear linkages back to those respective websites, and then through a lot of infographics, just going further down, provide some more clarification on those roles and responsibilities and on everyone involved. And we'll dive further into this on another page. So what's included? Again, just reemphasizing, high level at this point throughout the site. We don't have projects listed or any great detail to that regard, but this is just emphasizing outlining that the criteria, if you will, for projects, how projects will be determined, prioritized as we move forward. And then just further down on the page, news and updates, as we have news releases that get published, relevant media articles that we'd like to share and post on the site. Those will be posted here. These are some staging blog articles that we put together just as examples to show you how that would look. And then Here at the bottom, stay in touch. You'll see this kind of as a theme throughout this site. There are multiple forums like this, opportunities to sign up for email distribution lists, provide questions, comments, all of that stuff throughout the site. Again, we want this to be a really easy and central place for the public to provide their feedback and sign up to have regular updates. So about the plan, we get into a little bit more detail about the renewal plan here, but again, we're staying at a high level. We're not listing specific projects, getting into funding information or anything like that at this point. But it is providing a little bit more information than what we have on the page. So here, this is a key term for us. We really want people to understand what are we talking about when we talk about water infrastructure. So this graphic is intended to show you and give the public an idea of really what we're talking about when we talk about water infrastructure. Of course, renewal plan benefits, just like, I would imagine some of you, the public will really want to know, how this benefits me, how this benefits my family. So you have that information here. Scrolling further down, this asset management graphic, highlights how delays in updating infrastructure, might lead to reactive maintenance. Scrolling further down, water is serious business, and there's a couple of infographics here, and these highlight how water is the lifeblood of communities and conflicts. So about us, like I mentioned, we do have more infographics, with the intention of offering transparency around who's involved. So a lot of information here about Woodlands Water, the Woodlands estuary. Going further down, there's a great infographic that further explains those roles and responsibilities, and I think will help the public understand where those are intertwined and those linkages among each respective organization. And then this is a large graphic, so there's more and more information. And maybe you'll see that it's graphic. FAQs. So these frequently asked questions, we put these together trying to anticipate as best we could questions that would be received as we kick things off. And so these have been, this is, collaboration with Water, ourselves as a consultant team, the QC, of course. So we fully expect to expand on this list of questions as we move forward, as we hear trending topics, in conversation and engagement events. So absolutely added to update it. Involved. So again, emphasizing, our intent to really want to receive feedback. So there are multiple opportunities here directly on the Get Involved page. Again, links back to Woodlands Water and estuary websites, social media platforms, comment portals here on this page. Again, we have a couple of other sub pages here for question forms, things like that. If you want to just drop down into events, this is an event calendar that, as we identify and schedule large scale public meetings, open houses, leverage participation at other community events or meetings, we'll have those listed here. So. And this media page, this is intended to be a one-stop shop for the media. We want the media to be aware of what we're up to, ask questions, be able to have all the information, readily available for them to cover us accurately. So as we have news releases available, those will be posted here, fact sheets, any other information material is see it. Again, I know we have several forms. We have these kind of strategically placed. We want it to be really easy for the public to find these things, be able to sign up, submit comments, questions, all those things. And then we can have a, we realize that some folks do not know which mud they live in. So we have this mud finder map here, as well as in the FAQ page, if they navigate there first. So that is the website. I think we just have one more slide, just talking about next steps. So it's a question, just before. But we are looking to launch this website tomorrow, September 19th, as well as just, our larger awareness building campaign. Along with the website, we are currently finalizing a survey that will be made available on the site. We want to create a call to action for the public once this site is available, so they have immediate opportunity to provide feedback, to engage with us. And then we're not just, passively launching the site. We're going to tomorrow be releasing email notifications, news release, social media messaging here in the near term. And then we'll be coordinating with Woodlands Water to get additional awareness messaging, water bill messages, Woodlands Water Weekly, and some other things as well. I mentioned the open houses and engagement events. We'll be looking to leverage opportunities there, existing opportunities, and schedule our own larger public meetings, more targeted stakeholder meetings for the. And then lastly, the community working group. Said a lot, but one final thought here. I know there's not a lot of information about the working group on the slide, so I'd just like to that is intended to be comprised of representation from each MUD. So we're looking for one representative, potentially a backup representative from each MUD, as well as representation from each village association and the business community. So we'll be reaching out to the Chamber of Commerce there, representation from them as well. And that's what we consider kind of our core of the working group. But in addition to that, we'll be extending invitations to local officials and their staff to be a part of it if they would like. And then, of course, we'll have participation from Woodlands Water, Estuary, Township, and Howard Hughes. The part of this thing. The purpose of this group is to establish a regular, consistent dialogue community, better understand community concerns, and leverage the relationships of those working group members to distribute information as we have to provide. And, also to potentially mitigate some misinformation that is out there about roll it out to. Lastly, as far as frequency, we're limiting these working group meetings to be on a quarterly basis. We do want to be respectful of this time, and we all have very busy schedules. And so we want to make sure that those meetings are meaningful and have a very clear purpose and direction. Last thing I'll note is, with that said, we want to be flexible. We want there to be some ownership of the working group itself. And so if there's a need to, meet more frequently, critical decision points, things like that, we'll be flexible as best as we can to accommodate those. But that is all I have. But yeah, I can answer any questions.
And we do need a volunteer for the community. We need this one.
Before you turn that off, we go back to the plan. The part I'm concerned with, I'd like to know a plan, right? So you're talking about a future plan from all of us, the Water Authority, Sim Central, correct? What plan are we talking about?
The renewal plan is educating the community on infrastructure, aging.
Understood. And so we have budgets, plans, and I'm kind of curious as to what plans are we going to be talking about?
Depends on what the boards decide to do. With various different, right now, you're already doing sanitary sewer rehab and renewal, so you're doing some already, which is good. There's a couple projects right now, AC, the treatment plant that are under assessment. So those are going forward.
With the assessments,
Correct. In SJ's report, there's a number of renewal projects that are going on right now as well. So we're not communicating those to the consumers, right? So we want to create a landing place where we can educate folks on what you're already doing and what might happen.
I think it's a good idea. I'm just concerned because I did see a press release a couple of months ago that got ahead of itself. It's got things in there that said we're going to happen that point. So I'm always concerned. You have a committee that's guiding this already, correct? So that's why you want to go live tomorrow or whatever, even though this other advisory committee hasn't performed.
Yeah, that's right. And I'd love to see what press release you're talking about, because we approve all press releases and there's nothing really released that's untrue. So, yeah, shoot it to me.
It was misleading.
Okay. Well, that's different than untrue.
Well, is it? I think our job is to be transparent with the public.
And that's what we're
Make it
doing.
clear. Oh, okay. What do I sign?
So do we have a volunteer that would like to participate? I can only get one. You got it? Awesome.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, of 18, we're on for trustee.
Okay, just real quickly and time crunch here, I don't really have anything further. What's transcribed in the minutes. Is there any other questions from the board?
All right. We do.
Closed session.
Yes.
Sorry. The last bit.
You've been doing this for a few years.
I'm stopping it.
We're getting going to this session, so.